This tutorial video demo is about running week 6 of semester 2 2016. Basically, most of you got some issues with database connectivity and other things. So I'll tell you a few areas you could look into while executing the application. First thing is you might have some issues with your project build and things. Try to download the solutions files. I'll be using the solution files, the shared file, the app client, and the EJB, and I'll building the E project myself. So I have downloaded this files into the location. These are the file EJB app and share. So I'll copy the files to my location. Week 6 underscore 2, that's the location I'll be working with. So these are my downloaded files. If you're downloading the student version, you'll be completing the complete code. Now I'll go to NetBeans. I will open the project. Okay, I'll open project. Where is the documents? Workspace week 6 underscore 2, and there is 3 on my project. So I'll open this project. So when initially the projects are loaded, you might see some red color thing. That is because of some issues. So first let's look into the shared part. Shared part looks fine. The next thing that you'll be looking at is the EJB. There is something red, so let's see. So one is the data source problem. Yes, we are expecting the data source problem for EJB. And the properties, they might be because this is due to project being built in JDK 8 or something. So change the source binary format or downgrade it to 7 if possible, and then say OK. So that the major red part will go, but don't worry if it doesn't go. Do the same for the app. Go to properties and make sure this is JDK 7. So we know that EJB and the app, they both run on the server, and before actually I'll be creating an EJB, I'll have to create a server. For me it's W6, but for you I'll demonstrate how to create a server for the first. So I'll be using a week 6 underscore 2. So for the first time when you're using, so you have to click this and download it. From next time it will just create an instance. So it created a server for me, and meanwhile I'll create a database also. Database that I'll create is, let me call it as this screen says that the server was created. Okay, yes. And then the database that I'll creating a week 6 underscore 2 underscore db. Okay, and the username is fit5042, same fit5042. Okay, say okay, and this is the database that I have created. Now when I've created a database, there will be some related things are also created. These are my database properties. If I connect to this URL, these are my database properties. This is the URL name to which database can be reached, and these are the driver class. We can close this for the time being. Okay, the server, this EJB container, it runs in the EJB container which is present in the server. it has a data source problem, that is this JDBC name is not mapped. You can map it through add connection, but let's do it in a proper manner, in a consistent manner. So I'll say I want it to run on week 6 underscore 2. That's the server that we created. Okay. Even I want my app client to run on the same server. Make sure that both of them run on the same server. Okay. Now about this, we have two files here, the persistence.xml. So this persistence unit maps to this data source, which it cannot find. So we'll be creating a new data source name. Now some of you might be saying that your application client is working and not your container managed entity manager. That's because you might be having two persistence unit. This is just one persistence unit. You can have multiple persistence unit, and your each individual persistence unit maps to one particular database. So you need to make sure which persistence unit you are using, and if you are using that particular persistence unit, then you need to see which particular database that persistence unit is mapping. You'll find it from here. So this data source was having problem because this was created in somebody else's system, and ideally it should start with jdbc. So people who are having problem with jdbc slash underscore pm during the prepare method call of compiling the persistence unit, you need to look into few things. So first thing is, like, it should start with jdbc. So I'll create a new data source. I'll call it as jdbc slash week 6 database. You can give any name, and the connection URL is week 6 2db. This the one. So you can give any name. You can give week 6 2db also, doesn't matter. It should start with jdbc. Say okay. Now when you create this, sometimes you might face Java app or something being prefixed before here. So try to remove that and save it. Okay. After you do that, there are a few more things you need to look at. That is, go to Glassfish-resources. You'll see with the JNDI name real estate 6, you're trying to connect to some database with this. So that's why you were getting a problem earlier, data source resolve. Right now you have created this particular database, right? And this is your JNDI name, and that's the JDBC resource pool name, and that's the JDBC URL, right? So this information is our required information, and these are all not so required information. What you can do is you can clear all this, till this. This much is enough. This much is enough to run your enough for the persistence unit to connect to the right JDBC resource pool with the proper JNDI name, and this will be the attributes and the property values. This is the main URL. Now don't worry about if you see this still red. If you now go and say resolve data source problem, you can see there is no more, because the data source problem has been mapped, right? So if you have a problem, you can delete this file and create it also. If you want to edit it, you should know exactly what you're doing. Okay. If you want to see the logs and all, you can add some more things here. That's there in slides. I'm not going into too much details. So this is our thing. So if you see something Java app or something Java module app prefixed, delete that part here and make sure in Glassfish resource, sometimes it may be present inside some folder here. So make sure that the JNDI name doesn't have any Java app or anything. You don't need multiple JDBC resources. With just one particular JDBC resource connecting to the pool, you can connect to your database. Okay, so try to remove the extra things here, make it neat and clean so that you don't have much confusion what you're doing. Now I'll just clean build it. Good. Um, Now I'll create an app project. I'll close this part. I'll close this part, and I'll see what problems does it have. Okay, there's nothing. This should go away. If it's there also, it's not a problem because it's already resolved. I'll create a Java EE project. uh, I'll try to keep the project in the same location. Let's say, doesn't matter where you keep it, it should be present there. Workspace week62. So I'll call it as week6 underscore 2. Week6 underscore 2. Okay, that's the project name under this project location. I'll call it as EE for my convenience. Use dedicated folder for storing libraries and say next. Choose the server 6.2. I'll add my modules later. So once I have this, I'll add my modules, this one and this one. Once they are added, I can say like clean and build. So building the jar, there's no issues. So I'll just, what I do is I will try to deploy. When I will deploy, the server here will start and it will put the E application there. So I'll first deploy. So you may see the server starting. This is the server, and that's where the logs will be present. So these are the main things here. You can see your entity files, they got transformed. That means they are mapped to tables. And then let's see. So it is successfully deployed. So if it is successfully deployed, it should be present in the server. See, the server is started. You can see it under application. Okay. Now sometimes now you can go and run it. Okay. You can simply run the project. It will simply execute your project. So for the first time when the project is running, you will not find any data because the tables, they were created as a part of create table strategy in your persistence XML, but the created table doesn't have any data. You have to insert it through the scripts, which is present in your module given to you. Insert data scripts. Now this table would have been mapped, right? So the entities, when it got transformed, so the table generation strategy is create. So the tables would have been created in those particular database. So I'll go to the database, I connect to it, and I go in detail, and if I see, I can see the tables there. Contact person, I can see property, I can see tag, likewise. So now you can simply right click, execute command, and run your scripts. Now if you're facing issues in here, a few things that you need to make sure if everything is okay. So what are those few things is, just check if you have in your connection pools or the connector resources, sorry, not in connector resources, in the jdbc resources connection pool, you have your database properties created or not. This is the same detail as you'll find it here. This derby, this is the database pool, this is the database pool, jdbc resource pool. So these are the details: port number, user password, the url, the driver class, and the name of the database, and the server name. So these are the properties of my jdbc resource pool. So this should be created, and along with that, the jdbc name, the data source name that you have used, should be also be present under jdbc resources. You can also go and see its property, and it is connected to the correct pool. Regarding what is the pool which is created, you can always go and see those details. When you create some information in the persistence, it will be updated in the Glassfish resource file. This is the name of the pool, and this is the JNDI name. It has to start with a JDBC, otherwise you'll get underscore PM error during your prepare method error. That's because the the Glassfish server is unable to connect to the database. So if you see these properties, they are the properties of the pool. Okay, the jdbc resource pool, and this name is used to connect to this particular url which holds your database name, this. So there is one more way you can check if you got those values or not. uh, don't play too much with the Glassfish resource. It has to be somewhat really nice, otherwise you will keep getting errors. Now another place that you can go and check is go to the server when it is running. If you're not sure about where your why the url underscore pm is been thrown, what you can do is like do a right click, go to the admin console. You'll find localhost 4848 or this thing, Glassfish server admin console being open. And once it is open, you can see what are the JDBC resource pool and the JNDI names, JDBC resources. So you see on the left hand side column here, don't play too much around here. This is not a nice place to play around. So just watch carefully what I'm doing. I'll just click on JDBC connection pool. So it has created a new pool name for me, connection pool name, and this is a resource and this is the class name. If you don't have this, if you don't have this, what you can do is click on the connection pool. If you don't have the derby net week 6 database pool, which is the name of the pool here, if this is not created, you can copy this, and then you can manually go and create here. You can click on new and you can create a pool name, and then in the resource type you can select SQL driver, or you have to see what driver it is. Apache Derby jdbc client driver. So you can the details has to be somewhat like this. The driver class, this database name, your database name, user id, password, port number, and the url. Okay, so I go back here. So resource type is sql data source, and database driver vendor. This is not so compulsory, but you can uh, when you create it, you can copy these properties. So you can create your pool name and you can copy these properties. In the pool name, you give the pool name same as that of what is present here in your Glassfish server. And then this I'm telling you, if by creating the JNDI name and the server database, the server is unable to connect, you create that link in your server. How you do it is by manually creating a connection pool. If you're manually creating a connection pool, you have to give the pool name, and then make sure the data resource type is SQL data source, and the data source class name is org apache derby jdbc client data source. It has to be ditto, same as of this thing. Okay, so um, so these are the properties, and when you're creating this has to be org apache derby jdbc client data source. And after that, these all things, pool settings and transaction, you don't need to play too much. This can be default. You can go to not the advanced, additional properties. In the additional properties, you have to have these properties of the jdbc connection resource pool. This is same as of these values. Okay, these values are present in that resource file. So the same values, so I'll go there and show you. You have to create, add a property. Let's say it's url. You copy, you write their url if it is not present. For me it is present, so add property, and then link it, the password, port number, database user, and server name. After that, you save it. Okay, I cancel it because I already have it. So once you have a connection pool created and it has the properties of url, driver class, password, port number, and the database name, username, and the server name, what you can do is next go and create, check if you have the data source name present or not. If you don't have, you can create a new data source name clicking in here. You can give the JNDI name jdbc slash week 6 underscore db. It has the caps has to match, it is cache sensitive. And in the pool name, select the correct pool. Okay, if you are unable to see that pool, that's because that pool might not have been created yet. So first create the pool and then give the JNDI name and the pool name, and then say okay. Once you say okay, you'll get something like this. For me it is getting created, for the people it is not getting created. You have to do it manually. Create the connection pool, then create the jdbc resource. It looks something like this, very plain and simple. JNDI name and the pool to which it connects, and the pool will have the information of the resource type and the data source class name with the properties that can link it to the database. So once this is done, for you it will be all save. Okay, you can go to home and just see if you have those JNDI name and the connection pool. Once it is present, you can close this, and you can, If it is already deployed, that means it has been deployed but there are some error in it. What you can do is you can undeploy it, then stop the server, and then go back to the project and recompile and run it. When you recompile and run it, it will be again be deployed in your server. First your server will start, it will be deployed, and then it will get executed. Once it get executed, you can go back to your database and you can see your database tables being created. That's all. If you still have any problems, then we'll see it in the lab. Okay, thank you guys.